wasn't the case this time around because if you watch that race, oh my word, what a race it was. There was so much drama, and even though there wasn't that much of a change in terms of there wasn't a shake-up of the order, there's plenty of reasons for teams or fans of all teams, in fact, to be optimistic about how their team went. Of course, plenty of heartbreak if you're a Ferrari fan because of that DNF by Charles Leclerc at a time when he was, in fact, dominating the race and looked on course for a very, very comfortable victory. He could not, in fact, turn that into a victory because of some technical issues. We don't quite know what they are yet, and even he's not really elaborated on them in the interviews that he's given since. But what is interesting to know is that Max Verstappen has won the Spanish Grand Prix. In fact, the Red Bulls have completed a 1-2 thanks to, Perez finishing second. But Charles Leclerc, my God, he would be cursing his luck. And it has to be happening just a week or a couple of weeks before the Monaco Grand Prix, where normally speaking, he has in fact had a bit of a struggle despite it being his home race. Last season, remember, he kind of finished, he got pole position, couldn't start the race due to some issues in his car and not being able to repair it on time. So, but wonderful race if you're a Red Bull fan, because of course, they managed to get that win. And at one point, even that looked very unlikely because there was a lot of problems in Max Verstappen's car. Most notably with the DRS, which at one point was not functioning properly. The DRS wasn't opening down the main straight. And what that meant was that, of course, he was able to get in within a second of George Russell, who was up ahead of him. But because of the DRS not opening, he couldn't get that little extra boost to actually get that juice into his car and actually, make the overtake that was necessary. But the Orange Army is going crazy in Barcelona, as we can see the live visuals, and my goodness, what a race it was indeed for him. He now officially takes the lead in the 2022 championship. It's the first time he's been leading the championship this year. And of course, it's also worth noting that Max Verstappen has pretty enviable record in the 2022 season till this point. Every single race that he's actually finished, he has now actually won. So every single race that he's finished, he's crossed the finish line as the winner. So that's quite an interesting, stat for him. It shows just how dominant he's been even this year and how different things could have been if his car was actually more reliable. He might just be a runaway leader at this point. I'm going to take a few of you guys' comments because I can see quite a few coming my way, and I'm really glad you guys are joining me for this. BH Karthik says Lewis could have won this race. He was second fastest after Perez. I'm not sure if he could have won the race, but I think that that early crash, that first lap crash with Kevin Magnussen, didn't help his chances. He did end up having a very good race, but he was on course for fourth place. He didn't get fourth place because the Mercedes engineers told him that, look, you have to ease off a bit. There's a potential issue with the car that we need the brakes to cool, and then therefore, he had to kind of pull off the throttle a bit, and Sainz got ahead of him. But unfortunate for him, but he'll also be pleased with the kind of progress they've made this season, or in this race rather, because remember, coming into this, there was a lot of talk about them making progress and them needing to make progress. They've thankfully done that. So let's see. Muhammad Abbas, thank you for joining me from Cargill. Love right back at you. Let's see. Kunal K just says Leclerc with a heartbroken emoji. Man, I have to feel for that guy. He was on course for a very easy win, and if he had actually gotten this win, he would be cruising into his home race at Monaco. As it turns out, he's now behind in the championship for the first time, and the pressure is going to be on him even more. I mean, there's already pressure. One, remember, he's a Monegasque. Number two, remember, he's had a very bad record in Monaco. The Monaco curse is something that is very much a thing that the internet has made. Vinay Vinu, so I thank you guys actually for joining me. It's what motivates me to actually, join you guys on these lives. So thank you, rather. Lavrami says 4-6 now for Supermax. I mean, wow. We thought this it might just end up becoming a very close, season thus far. But the Red Bulls are clearly a class ahead of the rest. And, I don't quite know what exactly Ferrari could do, because the Ferraris, it's not like they had issues with the car. I mean, Leclerc was comfortably ahead at one point, but where Red Bull have the advantage is the fact that they have a competent number 2 driver in Perez, even though he was complaining quite a bit when asked to move over. Sainz, on the other hand, continues his run of bad luck. I mean, he had a bit of a, he had problems early on in the race. He eventually managed to claw his way back, but obviously not the best of races for him either, even if he managed to get that fourth place. Okay, Anshuman Mohanty says, hello, sir, what is your full name? So my full name is Shane Dias. That would be spelled Shane-Dias. That's the answer to your first question. By the way, Max Verstappen is now the answer for most of the questions of Grand Prix. Well, I mean, the guy is definitely a class ahead of all the other drivers at this point, and he's got a very good car, so that definitely helps. Love Rami says, Hamilton and Magnussen collision. Yeah, that's very interesting. That collision actually ended up setting Hamilton back a fair bit, and that's obviously something that we talked about. I was talking about it before, but it's also a bit unfortunate for Magnussen because, I mean, we know that Haas packed some serious pace. And if not for that collision, he might have been on course for a very easy points finish today. But as it turns out, he ended up trundling home in the back end of the field. And I know that, obviously both him and Lewis, when the radio messages were played, were blaming each other. But I think it was more of a racing incident than anything else. No one really at fault. It was just unfortunate that he ended up getting, the worst end of the stick in that sense. So again, Love Rami, you're saying that Perez was going in first position, but it was Supermax's day. I have to tell you, Perez was not very happy that he had to move over for Max because he felt that he had been leading the race. He had a very clear race by that point, a very clean race. He didn't really spin. His race was clean. He managed the tires very well, and still was being asked to move over. It's a bit of a conundrum, and I don't know if I'm sensing any dissent there. I don't think it will be there yet, but I wouldn't be very happy either if I were in Perez's position. We all know, look, F1's a team game. Sometimes you have to play the team game, but I mean, they could very well have handed him that win. I don't know, but I'm not a team, I don't run a team, so I guess that was what Red Bull felt was the better call at that point. Ritesh Mishra, I'm good, thanks. It's actually my day off. But since I was watching the race and I know that the other guys are currently occupied in another live, so I thought I'd join you guys and we'd talk some F1. So I'm very nice. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well too. Love, Ravi says, I always get confused between Carlos Sainz and Perez. I mean, they do look pretty, they don't look that alike either, but okay. Rajni Jha says, complete this. Steven Gerrard, he slipped. I can't complete that on air, actually. Manish Mohapatra says, Red Bull 1-2. Yes. I mean, if you're a Red Bull fan, this was a dream race. And considering it looked like a nightmare race at one point where Max was actually screaming down his engineer's throat, saying, we can't even get the DRS working properly. What a turnaround from there. Sanket Joshi asked, did Perez allow Max to go ahead today? Well, yeah, because steam orders used. So that's why Max went ahead, because Perez was leading the race before that. So yes, he did in fact allow, Verstappen to go ahead. Mahesh Mohapatra says, I hope Liverpool also have a good day today. I mean, the quadruple dream is still on, but the Premier League matches will be starting in a few minutes, and it is interesting to see how those matches go as well. Raul Rice says, good race for Lewis and a cooling pad issue. Yeah, the cooling pad issue was something that, they had been flagging even earlier in the race. So, it was a bit of an unfortunate sense of timing for them, but they also have only themselves to blame. They could have actually packed in a little bit more coolant, considering everyone knew that the temperatures were going to be a little higher today. So no one but themselves to blame, but I think Mercedes and even Lewis will be very encouraged with the kind of pace they've shown. The real thing now is that they are, that they keep up with this development and can hopefully get back in front and be a potential race-winning force. Love Rami says, always a can of Red Bull in my hand in every Grand Prix because I'm always rooting for Supermax. Cheers. Well, I hope you're very happy today, Love, because your man won the race. Nick Julian asks, what plans for the Champions League finals? Nick, we will in fact be doing a watch-along that night. So, you do join us for that because we're going to be live in the Sports Today studio. We're going to be watching along, having our snacks. You can have a snack as well, or a snack or two at that point. Get your soft drinks, or in your case, you can have other drinks as well. And you can get a snack and join us, So that's our plan for that. Raul Rice says, Russell awesome even with the issue. That's the thing. Russell he made a very good start, but circumstances always, favored him a little bit here as well. And that's not me saying it as someone who's more of a Max fan or more of a George Lewis fan. I like George a lot. I think that guy is the future of the sport alongside the likes of Max and Leclerc. But yeah, the circumstances did favor him a bit today, but even despite that, very solid drive, and I'm loving how good he looks in the Merc this far. Kunal says, worst sport weekend for me, Scuderia, Mbappe, and SC. Ooh, I'm really sorry, man. But that's the thing with sport, man. You have some good weekends, you have some not so good weekends. It's just how it goes. Love Rami says, Lewis is doing quite good, Shane sir, and you'd be a bit happy as a Mercedes fan looking at his position. What's the staple cause of Mercedes not doing well as expectations this season? The main cause for them actually not doing well, and it's something that they fixed to quite a degree, was porpoising. So porpoising is basically the phenomenon of the car bouncing up and down on straights. In fact, more so on the straights than anywhere else, and that was costing them a lot of speed. So they've actually done something, I don't know what exactly it is because we'll know the details of the upgrades and everything once the race weekend is over. But they've done something that has mitigated the porpoising, so it's not really bouncing that much, and thus they're able to find some speed. So I think that would answer your question, you know. A lot of you guys are asking about Mbappe. I did another video yesterday on that, so do check that out if you haven't. That will answer all your questions on Kylian Mbappe. But for now, let's get back our focus onto the, onto the Grand Prix at hand, and what a good race indeed it was for all of these guys. They actually did pretty well, and if you guys will excuse me for a second, I'm actually going to pull up the, on my iPad by the way, I'm going to pull up the race results so that I can just go over the top 10, see how exactly who did at what point, because I do think it's important that we cover all aspects of the race, not just the top 3. Love Rami says, need to learn more and more F1 terms and words. I mean, keep watching along, listen to the commentators, and if you ever have any doubts when it comes to terms, Google it. Trust me, it's a very big help. It'll always be your friend in that regard. It's something you learn with time. Even it took me a few years to actually understand the technical aspects of it. I hope that answers your, question in that regard. I hope it helps you a little bit. So anyway, I have now pulled up the, oh man, this website is full of ads. So I have now pulled up and found the top 10. So let's just go over this in a bit, shall we? So the top 10 for this race, as we were discussing, it's a Red Bull 1-2, George Russell in third. Carlos Sainz Jr., by the way, whose home race it was, ended up finishing fourth. Fifth place for Hamilton, good for Hamilton. And fifth place, Valtteri Bottas and Alfa Romeo would be cursing his luck because whilst everyone went for a 3-stopper, he went on a 2-stopper, and at the end, he didn't really have much left in the way of tires. Esteban Ocon, another solid showing from him in the Alpine, 7th place. Lando Norris, who by the way was racing with a bit of a sickness. He was not feeling well all day, but he still come out, gritted out a very good performance, finished 8th in that McLaren. 9th place goes to Fernando Alonso in the other Alpine, again giving the home fans a little more something to cheer about. And that final point spot went to Yuki Tsunoda in AlphaTauri, who by the way has had a shockingly impressive second season. I remember last year he got criticized a lot because he wasn't matching up to Gasly's level. This year he's actually outdoing Gasly, and I'm very, very pleased to see that. So Sanket Joshi, I'm just taking a few more comments and then I'm going to end this little live of ours. Sanket Joshi says DTS is very good if you want to get used to some complicated terms. I agree. Drive to Survive is a very, very good series if you're looking to get into the sport. That would help you a lot. That I agree with. Raul Reyes says your all-time favorite F1 driver and team. Man, this is a hard question. I have two favorites if you have to look at it. I think the first favorite, or the man who got me into F1 was Michael Schumacher. And then after that, I took a bit of a liking to Hamilton in his early days. His rookie season, I remember, he was absolutely beating Fernando Alonso in his rookie season for the first half of the season. So I think that made me take a bit of a liking to him because there was this young kid who, was giving it to a double world champion and actually outperforming him in a very good car. So that's why. And, a team, I mean, it's harder to say. I was never much of a Ferrari fan. So I would say I lean more towards Mercedes, which is why I like George Russell so much now. So once Hamilton retires, George Russell will be my guy. I'll be team George Russell. Hope that answers your question. God of Rai says Checo should have won. Well, I do agree with you. I mean, I think they could have handed him that win, Red Bull, because he was doing so well. But I also think that, the fine margins at which, championships are decided nowadays, I think Red Bull went for the safer option, and I don't think you can really fault them for that. It's not really, at the end of the day, F1 is a team sport in that sense, so you can't really fault them for giving the win to the driver who they think will be the likeliest to be competing for that, for that title win. And thanks for the recommendation, says Love Rami. You're welcome. God of Rise says too early to swap. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think, if you're talking about Yuki Tsunoda, I agree. I don't think he's quite ready for the Red Bull seat just yet. And Red Bull, in fact, have been guilty of handing that seat to too many people before they're ready. I mean, you had Pierre Gasly suffer from that. You had Alex Albon suffer from that. So I think they've learned from their mistakes. So I'm not quite sure that Checo will be replaced as such. But again, you never really know. I mean, what if Checo decides he wants to be at a team which, where he's not playing cycle fiddle to someone? Of course, that also is a bit of a far stretch. But again, keep an eye on this story as it goes. I mean, that being said, of course, I think we all knew too early to swap 1-2 with Checo, you say? I mean, too early, that's subjective. I do kind of agree with you. I do agree with you in that regard that maybe they could have handed him the win. But I think that was the safe choice in that regard for Red Bull. So I don't agree with them in that regard, but I don't fault their execution either. So in that sense, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a decision that could go either way, and neither is the wrong call in my opinion. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this live with you guys now. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, in just 1 week's time will be the Monaco Grand Prix, so do join me for that one as well. Hopefully we'll have some more F1 content going up for you guys before that as well. So let's see, I'm doing my best in that regard to kind of be with you guys and give you whatever it is, whatever F1 knowledge and whatever, I love having conversations with you guys, so do drop in your comments. But for now, again, at the end, the Spanish Grand Prix has come to an end. It's about time that the podium celebrations have started. And with that, I am bidding you leave. Again, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, drop me a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, I have been Shane Dias, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye-bye for now.